I call the member for Barron River.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Madam Deputy Speaker, I rise to speak in the House on the Animal Care and Protection and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2012. All that will be left are the sounds of silence. These are the prophetic words of Auntie Mary, an elder with the Mundabara people of Innisfail. Auntie Mary, along with other Aboriginal elders, is deeply concerned by the ongoing slaughter of dugongs and turtles by many Indigenous people. Queensland stands alone in this country that recognises the value of biodiversity and takes untold measures to protect same, including stringent import regulations that prevent the ingress of plant and animal diseases. We nurture our wildlife, we educate our children and indeed adults to respect and value native flora and fauna. We have punishments in place for those who fish illegally and take certain species from the oceans or rivers. We rightfully punish those who inflict cruelty on dogs, horses, cats and other domestic farm animals. But we have allowed vulnerable species, namely the sea turtle and dugong, to endure the most horrific deaths. There can be few people in far north Queensland who do not have a tale of beaches covered in carcasses of dugong, turtle and even dolphin, often netted, dragged to the beach, butchered alive and left to die, with only small amounts of meat removed. Wastage on a huge scale. Selective hunting to feed the family is one thing. Mass killings for a few kilos of meat collectively is another. It is a tragedy, and equally tragic is the fact that these brutal slayings have been allowed to continue. There is little or no monitoring or enforcement. Current research estimates suggest as many as 100,000 turtles and 1,600 dugongs are slaughtered annually. Slaughtered being the operative word. In late 2010, a local campaigner and Sydney barrister running a dugong and sea turtle campaign discovered the 2001 Animal Care and Protection Act excluded Indigenous hunting from the Cruelty Act. After many approaches to the former government, they were ignored. The LNP were then approached to rectify this anomaly if they attained government. Today I stand to applaud the Newman's government's actions to fix this anomaly. As the situation stands at present, the pitifully few rangers with a huge responsibility of monitoring the marine environment had no powers at all to prevent indiscriminate slaughter by Indigenous hunters. Commercial trade in the meat of marine turtle and dugong is prohibited, but it happens, that's fact. It's been proven time and again that meat is being brought down from the Torres Strait to sell here on the mainland. This has been confirmed by Torres Strait Islanders. It's a huge trade and the meat is sold in Cairns, Townsville and even further south. In 1998, Henry Garnier, a respected elder from Hammond Island and Deputy Chairman of the Island Coordinating Council, the peak leadership group for the Torres Strait Island communities, said there are many people who are hunting dugong commercially, supplying the big island communities in Cairns and Townsville and other southern cities, and some are using guns to kill them. In 2010, following graphic and disturbing video footage of turtles having flippers hacked off while still alive, the Queensland RSPCA Chief Inspector Michael Trout said, "We're committed to ensuring that any breaches of the Animal Care and Protection Act are fully investigated while at the same time taking into consideration traditional hunting rights." RSPCA Queensland Chief Executive Mark Townsend said that until now cruelty to animals using traditional hunting methods has been put in the too hard basket by governments, but that as a charity they couldn't handle the situation alone. He also emphasised the RSPCA's stance was far from an attack on the Indigenous community, that there were Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders who supported the organisation on the issue. He went on to say, hunting from tinnies with a rifle is not traditional. Leaving turtles and dugongs to be butchered alive and left to die on the beach is not traditional. In Mark Baker's prophetic 1998 report to The Age, he said, "We have to do something now, not tomorrow or next week, now. I don't want my grandchildren to have to go to a museum to see what dugongs look like. At the rate we're taking them, this is what will happen." In an ABC News report, North Queensland wildlife documentary filmmaker Ben Kropp reported that some Indigenous communities have resorted to selling the meat for cash. So here in Australia, in the civilised country, we rank amongst those third world countries who are not privy to the information we possess. that, for example, tells us our marine species are endangered and vulnerable to extinction. This was the findings of a special meeting in Abu Dhabi in October 2010, where it was stated in the world that dugongs will be extinct within 40 years if no action is taken on preserving this unique mammal. Torres Strait Islanders and Aboriginal people use motorboats to chase dugongs, and there are frequent reports of nets and guns being used, which are not considered traditional methods of hunting. Queensland Boating and Fisheries Patrol have confirmed there is widespread abuse of traditional hunting rights, excessive catches of dugongs and turtles, dugong calves speared to lure adults with their screams, and commercial netting in Papua New Guinea waters within the jointly managed protection zone. The patrol has few resources and limited powers to respond. Under the 1993 Native Title Act, Indigenous Australians are entitled to take as many dugong and sea turtles as they like, with no bag limit imposed. There's no bag limit. Most of the elders are aware that they are a fragile species, but not all the people in the communities listen to their elders. Some of the young hotheads get out there and do what they like. Australia is a custodian of marine biodiversity. We have a responsibility to act. We're 14 years down the track from there, and it's critical that we do all we can to preserve them. Internationally, the dugong is listed as vulnerable to extinction by World Conservation Union and is endangered under the United States Marine Mammal Protection Act, and the green turtle conservation status is listed nationally as vulnerable. The methods used by some to kill turtles and dugongs are clear violations of prevention of cruelty to animal acts of every Australian state. Queensland, the only state which has, till now, exempted Indigenous people from the provisions of the Act. Dr. Colin Limbus, an expert on turtle conservation within the Queensland Department of Environment, said the RSPCA has little power to interfere with traditional hunting rights, but that he personally had problems watching any animal butchered alive, but he had to bite his tongue. Ironically, we put into place all manner of initiatives to prevent impact on protected species and preserve our marine life. Closure of the Coral Sea is a prime example, but on a smaller scale, the commercial fishing industry has been encouraged, for instance, to fit turtle excluded devices on trawlers, undertake mandatory endangered and threatened species awareness courses, and ironically develop codes of conduct for certain activities such as avoiding fishing in known turtle areas. On the other hand, we're encouraging, by a lack of fortitude and uniformity, slaughter of those protected species in their thousands as a result of creating one rule for some Australians and another for the rest of the population. The fact is, we don't do ourselves any favours by hiding under the native title legislation. There is a world movement towards conservation for these marine animals, and we are under the scope. It is widely known that we allow these atrocities to occur in the name of native rights. Hunting may be a native right, slaughter and cruelty are not. However, this issue is about the animals, the welfare of these animals only. Until today, no one had done anything about fixing this glaring problem. Today, the LNP did just that. I wish to thank the ABC 730 report program, Animals Australia and the RSPCA for bringing this issue to the open. Also Australian conservation legend Mr Bob Irwin, Rupert Imhoff, Colin Riddell and Sydney barrister Mr Geoffrey Beveridge for their help in bringing this issue to the attention of those who have and will make a difference to the plight of these animals. I commend this bill to the House.